Hey young friends, Dr. Bill here. I certainly hope that you've enjoyed playing in the snow this week, and I also hope that you're keeping warm. It's really cold. You may recall from last week that I said that we're going to begin taking a look at Jesus' disciples. And last week I kind of gave you an overview of the 12 disciples that Jesus called to be his closest friends and to be the ones to carry on his ministry after he was gone. And we talked about what an unlikely bunch of followers those disciples were. Today I want to begin by focusing on perhaps the most famous and well-known disciple, and that's Peter. Jesus called Peter when he was fishing, and he was known then by his name Simon. Jesus called him and then gave him a nickname. He said, "You are from now on Peter," which means rock. So probably if we wanted to understand it better, when Jesus would call Peter, he would say, "Hey rock, come here," or "Hey rock, come over there and do this." Well, Peter was named Rock, but he was anything but a rock. He just wasn't solid. For example, we're told in one of the Gospels that Jesus came to his disciples walking on the water. Peter was just absolutely amazed by this, and he said, "Lord, if it's really you, invite me to come and walk on the water with you." Well, Jesus did that. He said, "Come on." And Peter got out of the boat and began walking on the water. He did pretty well until he paid attention to all the wind that was howling about him and the waves. And he took his gaze off Jesus and he began to sink. Well, that's one example of Peter not really being as strong or as faithful as he should have been. He started out well, but he didn't end well. And then there's the time when Jesus asked his disciples who people thought he was. And they gave a lot of answers. Some say you're Elijah. Some say that you're one of the prophets. Well, Peter gave the correct answer. He said, "You are the Messiah. You are the Son of God." And for that, Jesus commended him. But when Jesus went on to talk about how he would suffer and die, Peter would have none of it. And Jesus got very angry with him and said, "Get behind me, Satan. Get behind me, you devil. You have no idea what I'm about to do." So Peter was capable of giving the right answer, but yet he didn't understand the full meaning of his answer. And then perhaps most famously, when Jesus was in Jerusalem the last week of his life, as they were celebrating the final supper together with Jesus, Jesus told his disciples flat out, clearly, he said, all of you are going to fail and fall away. And Peter adamantly protested and said, "I will never, ever deny you. I will stick with you to the end." And Jesus said, "Peter, I'm sorry to tell you, before the cock crows tonight, you will deny me 3 times. And that's exactly what happened to Peter. He followed Jesus all the way into the emperor's palace, but yet at the same time, he stood outside while Jesus was inside. And when he was questioned about whether he was a follower of Jesus or not, Jesus denied ever knowing Jesus. And he did that 3 times. So once again, Peter failed spectacularly. Now, the good news is that when we turn to the book of Acts, we find that Peter finally begins to live up to his name. He becomes a rock. When Jesus left the earth and sent the Holy Spirit upon the disciples, it was Peter who got up and preached in front of all the people and made the case that Jesus was indeed the Messiah, the Son of God. In that moment, he was unafraid. He'd had a tremendous experience with Jesus, and he understood fully what Jesus was about. Well, I tell you this to remind you and myself that all of us as followers of Jesus are fallible. We fail. We don't always get it right all the time. Like Peter, we can promise more than we deliver. Like Peter, we can fall short. Again, the good news is that that doesn't have to be the end of the story. As I said, Peter was able to stand up and be the first spokesman for the church, an advocate for the church. The other side of that story is that when Jesus had been raised, he encountered Peter, and 3 times he asked Peter if he loved him. Each of those 3 questions corresponded to the 3 times Peter failed him. And so Peter responded, "Lord, you know I love you. You know I love you. You know I love you." And that was Jesus' way of healing the breach between them and letting Peter know that everything was all right. Again, Jesus cared for this fallible and failing disciple and made sure he understood, he knew that he was forgiven and belonged in the circle of followers. As I said, we're like Peter. We don't always get it right. We sometimes fall short. We may even go so far, either by our words or the way we live, to deny that we ever knew who Jesus was. The good news is that Christ offers Peter and all of us tremendous forgiveness and works to put us on the right road. Well, that'll do it for today. Next week there will be no children's lesson as Jenny and I will be out of town. We'll pick up things when I return, but in the meantime, I hope you're doing well, and as always, if you have any questions, you know how to reach me. Take care, stay warm, and God bless. Bye-bye.